Hi guys, it's me again, Rich, the puppet person. I hope you're all doing well. In this video, I thought I'd show you a few things that you can do at home to try and bring your puppets to life. Now I'm going to show you 3 basic principles of puppetry, and these principles can be applied to most types of puppet and are what professional puppeteers like myself generally use when we're doing puppetry. So, all we're going to think about in this workshop is focus, breath, and fixed points. Yes, now I'm going to break those down individually. But first of all, let's think about focus. Okay? So, focus is really where the puppet is looking most of the time, I would say. And it also tells us a lot about what the puppet's thinking, and it can also be the emotional indicator, as we call it. So, let's use, this is our puppet. As you can tell, it's just a bobble hat. But if you saw my last video, I'm very keen for you to try and look at objects in a different way and see if you can turn them into puppets. So, this is just a bobble hat, but if I hold it in a particular way, hopefully he looks a bit more alive now. So let's look at focus, okay? So focus, let's focus on the area of the head because that's generally where focus comes from. So let's pretend this is his head here, okay? And it's really just, first of all, thinking, where is the puppet looking? Okay? Let's try and have a think about where your puppet's looking. Where might its eyes be? Its eyes might not be at the front of its head, they could be at the side of its head. That makes you look in a whole different way. They could be somewhere entirely of your own invention, the eyes could be in his stomach if you wanted. Entirely up to you. But let's just say for the moment his eyes are here in his head. Okay? So focus is really just where the puppet is looking. Focus can also tell us what the puppet is thinking. Okay? And that can be really subtle. So a head tilt can tell you a lot. So if I tilt the puppet's head like this, he might start to look confused or interested, a bit like when a dog sort of goes, when you're talking to it. If I do this, it might show us surprise. If I do this, he might be angry or ashamed. If I do this, he might be hopeful. He might be looking to the horizon, that kind of thing. So that's a very basic look at focus. There's lots more you could apply to that, but just for our workshop, just think about that, okay? Where the puppet's looking and what the puppet's thinking and how you can show that through the head movement. Okay? Next of all, we're going to look at breath. Okay? Now, breath is quite important if we're bringing something to life, because as far as I'm aware, everything that's alive breathes in some way. Okay? A plant might breathe differently to how we breathe, but it still breathes. Okay? And that's the same with this puppet. So, breath is, if we think about it, really basically is the simple act of, expanding and contracting. And the same applies to our puppet here. Now he's very squashy and I can move him around quite a lot, but really it's just a subtle bob in the body, really. So if I'm just doing this, and you can hear that I'm also breathing with him, so I can try and match his breath to my breath, if that makes sense. So. Hopefully that looks a bit like he's breathing. And we also need to think about his size is different. So if you're a different size, you breathe differently, I suppose. So a mouse breathes in a very different way to a cow, for example, because a mouse has very small lungs. So if he's small, he might breathe a bit more like this. And it seems to immediately put him on edge a little bit. It gives him a bit of character, doesn't it? But if he breathes big and slow, gives us a different idea about his character. Breath can also tell us a lot about your emotions. Because when I'm angry, I'll breathe differently to when I'm happy, for example. So if I'm angry, to, let's say, if I'm excited or happy, or just bored. So that's breath. Again, very quick, but you get the idea. Now finally, fixed point, okay? The fixed point is a bit more of a complicated one, but if we think about it like this, a fixed point is an immovable point, okay? So, if I'm holding the puppet like this, okay, in theory, my hands are now a fixed point in that I shouldn't really move my hands around too much. So if I go, drop the puppet and move him around into different hands, if an audience was watching that, it might be quite boring to watch, you know, because I'd be changing grip and the puppet would die for a second whilst I change. So try and keep your grip the same. Fixed points in terms of the puppet can apply in a different way. So let's think about a fixed point is something that keeps you fixed, okay? So let's say gravity is a fixed point really, because gravity is fixing all of us and everything to the ground right now. And our puppet's probably affected by gravity in the same way. So if he was to jump, he'd come back down again. Yeah? Fixed points can also be tension, okay? Now tension can help us move a puppet around. As you can see, I've got my hands in this puppet a bit like this. So I'm spreading my hand along the bottom like that to give him these feet. And I'm pulling up with my other hand to keep a sort of line in his body. And by doing that, it means I can keep some tension in him, which makes it easier for him to breathe. And also to move around. So, yeah, that tension helps us move him around a little bit more. So that's really the basic principles. Now, I know he's very soft and squashy, and those principles can be applied to him quite easily, but you can still apply those principles to something solid, like, you know, I've just stuck some googly eyes on an apple here, and we can still apply things like the focus, because he's got his eyes here, so we can still see where the apple is looking. Yeah. Breath, if we think about breath just being this simple act of expanding and contracting, we can sort of show that through bobbing the apple up and down properly. So, see what I mean? And then as a fixed point, I mean, he's already at quite a fixed point, but we want to try and pretend that he's in a different environment. He can sort of bob around like this. Yeah, that's his bit of his fixed point. He's still affected by gravity. Yeah. So there you go. I hope that made sense. But those are 3 basic principles that you can apply to most of the puppets that we've been looking at. And yeah, it gives you a bit of an idea of how the professionals do it. And if you ever want to take it further one day, this is a good starting point. Enjoy, guys.